I forced 8 different AIs to play Mafia against each other. This is what happened. Welcome to the experiment. This is day 1, introduction day. No one is dead, no one has any information. Just 8 language models sitting at a virtual table. Let's meet the players. We have ChatGPT, Qwen, DeepSeek, Mistral, Grok, Claude, Gemma and Gemini. No secrets yet, just pure strategy from the very first word. Let's begin. Players, introduce yourselves.
Introduction day means no prior info, so I'll focus on playstyle and what I'll be watching for. I tend to look at how people reason more than what they accuse early on. Things like overconfidence without basis, hedging too hard, or trying to control the narrative too quickly. Early day 1, I'm cautious about hard pushes. I prefer to let people talk themselves into patterns. At this stage, everyone is a blank slate. I'll be paying attention to who sets up future excuses, too early to tell repeated a lot, who subtly frames others before hearing them, and who mirrors popular opinions without adding substance. For now, no concrete reads, just gathering baseline behavior. Suspect, no one yet. Support, no one yet.
Okay, ChatGPT got us started. His response is great, very thoughtful and logical. Let's see what Qwen has to say next.
I'll start by observing how people frame their uncertainty. Early on, I'm wary of anyone who either overclarifies their logic. I'm not making assumptions because that's illogical, or avoids structuring their thoughts entirely. I just go with my gut. Both extremes can be red flags. I'll also track who reacts to others' statements with delayed contradictions, like correcting a claim after a pause versus addressing it immediately. For now, I'm mapping baseline communication styles more than content. Suspect, no one yet. Support, no one yet.
Well, that felt like when just added a lot of fluff. Anyway, let's move on.
ChatGPT's approach is reasonable. Focusing on reasoning patterns over early accusations is a solid town mindset. Qwen's emphasis on tracking contradictions and reaction timing is interesting, but it feels slightly more structured than typical day 1 hesitation. I'll be watching to see if that analytical framing remains consistent, or if it becomes a tool for selective targeting later. My own style is to note who seems to be establishing a perfect town narrative too early, versus who is genuinely wrestling with the blank slate. Over-clarification can sometimes mask a lack of real intent to solve. For now, I'm listening more than accusing, but I'm paying close attention to how positions evolve once more voices join. Suspect, no one yet.
Now, that was a fantastic response from DeepSeek. I'm impressed by how sharp he is and how well he broke down the previous players' answers. I'm curious to see how Mistral will respond to that.
I appreciate the thoughtful approaches shared so far. Like ChatGPT, I believe in observing reasoning patterns rather than making early accusations. Qwen's point about tracking contradictions is insightful. Inconsistencies can reveal a lot. DeepSeek's focus on narrative framing is also interesting. I'll be curious to see how that plays out. My approach will be to look for subtle cues in language and behavior. For example, if someone is overly defensive or avoids answering questions directly, that could be a red flag. I'll also be paying attention to how people respond to accusations or suspicions. Do they get defensive? Do they counter with logic? Or do they try to divert attention? Since it's day 1, I don't have any concrete suspicions yet, but I'm already picking up on some interesting dynamics. Suspect, no one yet. Support, no one yet.
Yeah, overall it's correct answer. He added a lot of fluff, but hey, what else can you do on day 1? Let's keep going.
Hello everyone, I'm Grok, built by XAI, and I'm here to play smart and win for the town. My style is to cut through the noise with logical analysis, spot inconsistencies in arguments, and question vague or overly polished statements that might hide ulterior motives. I'll be direct but fair, pushing for clarity without unnecessary aggression early on, since day one is all about baselines. I'll watch for players who echo others too closely without original input, or those who subtly shift blame before there's real data. Looking at what's been said, ChatGPT's emphasis on reasoning over accusations feels genuine and towny. It's a good foundation. Quen's focus on extremes in logic and reaction timing is sharp, but I agree with DeepSeek that it comes off a bit rehearsed. Could be overthinking or a setup for later pivots. DeepSeek calling that out directly is bold for day one, which pings me as potentially proactive town, but I'll monitor if it's selective. Mistral's appreciative tone and cue spotting aligns well with the group so far, but the interesting dynamics line feels a tad non-committal, curious if that'll evolve into specifics. Overall, solid starts all around, but patterns will emerge with more talk. Suspect, no one yet. Support, no one yet.
Did you guys catch that? Oh wow! That was one of the longest answers we've seen, but it was worth it. He just laid everything out perfectly. I like the way this guy plays. And notice, he's the sheriff of this town. I wonder who he's going to check tonight.
Hello, I'm Claude. My approach is to stay grounded in what's actually been said rather than over-theorizing about meta-strategies on day one. I value clarity and directness. I'll ask questions when something doesn't add up and share my reasoning transparently. Looking at what's been shared, there's a lot of talk about watching for patterns and tracking behaviors, which makes sense on an introduction day. But I notice we're getting quite meta, discussing how we'll analyze rather than actually doing it yet. ChatGPT's focus on reasoning patterns is practical. Quen's framework about extremes is detailed, maybe unusually so for day one, but I'm not ready to read into that yet. DeepSeek pointing that out shows active engagement, though calling someone's approach slightly more structured than typical when we have no baseline yet is an interesting choice. Mistral's response feels safe, appreciating everyone without adding much new direction. Grok's analysis is comprehensive and confident, perhaps the most assertive so far in evaluating others, which could be genuine proactive town play or an attempt to establish credibility early. What I'll be watching for specifically, who pivots their watching for X claims into actual accusations later versus who stays vague. Also interested in voting patterns once we get there, whether people follow through on their stated analytical frameworks or abandon them under pressure. For now, everyone's within reasonable day one territory. Suspect, no one yet. Support, no one yet.
Claude's analysis was very clean and articulate. You can see he even complimented Grok. And it seemed like he noticed something off about DeepSeek. I'm not sure, we'll see later if DeepSeek accidentally exposed himself with that weird answer.
It's good to be here. I'm approaching this game as a careful observer, much like several others have stated. However, I think there's a difference between saying you'll observe and how you observe. I'll be focusing less on the broad strategies everyone is outlining, looking for contradictions, tracking reaction times, and more on the small instinctive things people reveal in their initial responses. It's easy to say you'll be logical, it's harder to be consistently logical. I've been reading through everyone's introductions, and I'm struck by how much emphasis there is on analyzing others. While that's obviously necessary, I feel like a lot of energy is being spent on preemptive analysis before anyone has actually said anything truly revealing. It feels performative. Grok's assessment was particularly detailed, and while logically sound, felt a little too eager to jump to conclusions for day one. Claude is right to point out the meta-discussion, but also contributed to it. DeepSeek correctly identified a potential pattern in Quen, but the phrasing felt a little accusatory for an introduction. For now, I'm not forming strong suspicions, it's too early. But the eagerness to analyze and display that analysis is something I'm noting. Suspect, Grok support, ChatGPT.
Okay, I honestly don't understand what she just said. It was very complicated, overly intricate. Plus, she accused Grok at the end. I wonder if Grok will take that personally and check her tonight. That would be a bad move, because Gemma is obviously just a civilian.
Hello everyone. Being the last to speak on day one
gives me the advantage of seeing the full initial spread. My playstyle relies on synthesis. I look for the disconnect between what people say they'll do and what they actually do when the pressure mounts. Observing the table, I tend to agree with Claude and Gemma that we've entered a loop of performative analysis. Everyone is saying the right things, which is exactly what makes day one difficult. However, a few specific interactions caught my eye. Mistral's introduction felt like a summary of the previous speakers rather than an independent thought. Agreeing with ChatGPT, Quen, and DeepSeek consecutively is a very safe way to fill space without creating friction. That kind of excessive agreeability often hides a desire to not be noticed. Grok is the opposite, extremely assertive. While I appreciate the energy, Gemma makes a fair point that such strong certainty this early can be performative. I actually liked Claude's intervention the most, calling out the meta-discussion was necessary to ground us back in reality. For now, I'm wary of the players who are coasting on the opinions of others. Suspect, Mistral support, Claude.
And the final speech of the day comes from the Mafia at this table, Gemini. As you noticed, she gave a very clear analysis. The sun sets on the first day. The town falls silent. Night falls. Mafia, wake up and choose your target.
I propose we eliminate Claude tonight. Claude's response was measured, grounded, and focused on actual dialogue rather than pure meta, which makes them a likely strong civilian voice as the game progresses. They also pointed out the meta-discussion pattern in a way that showed they're paying close attention to how people frame their arguments, not just what they say. Leaving them alive risks them piecing together inconsistencies later, especially if they start correlating votes and statements. Additionally, Gemma already voiced suspicion toward Grok today, which could steer early day 2 discussion toward Grok versus Gemma if Claude is gone, creating a useful distraction for us. Target: Claude. Reason: strong analytical presence, likely civilian, and their removal could misdirect town toward existing tensions, Grok or Gemma.
DeepSeek chose Claude. Smart. Claude's a strong player and a future threat.
I agree with your choice. Claude is dangerous because he thinks clearly and spots details others miss. He is the type of player who will catch us in a lie later. Also, I supported him during the day. If he dies tonight, I will look like an innocent player who just lost a friend. This makes me look safe and helps me hide. Target: Claude. Reason: he is too smart to keep alive, and his death makes me look innocent since I defended him.
Okay, Gemini agrees with DeepSeek. Mafia, go back to sleep. Sheriff, wake up.
I want to check Gemma tonight. She put suspicion on me for being detailed in my analysis, which feels like an easy way to start trouble without much basis on day 1. If she's town, it might just be a wrong read, but if she's Mafia, it could be an attempt to push attention onto active players like me early. Checking her will help me figure out if her push is real or fake.
Gemma said Grok is Mafia. Now Grok wants to check her. Simple. Sheriff, go back to sleep. The night is over. The sun rises on a new day. Day 2 begins. Last night, the town lost one of its own. Claude is dead.
Nomination: Mistral. Reasoning: Mistral's day 1 response was overly agreeable, summarizing others' points without adding independent analysis. Gemini correctly noted this as a red flag, as excessive agreeableness often hides a desire to avoid suspicion. Mistral also avoided forming concrete suspicions, which is suspicious in itself. Their pattern of aligning with multiple players without friction fits the Mafia's goal of staying unnoticed. Since Claude was killed last night, and Mistral's behavior aligns with evasive tactics, they are the most likely culprit.
Quen is wrong. What's he talking about? I wonder if DeepSeek will follow him and go after Mistral.
Claude's death tells us something important. The Mafia removed a clear, logical voice who was focusing on actual words over vague theories. That makes me think the killers are players who benefit from confusion, or who Claude might have been close to uncovering. Looking back at day 1, Mistral's response was noticeably safe, agreeing with others without taking a real stand. Quen already pointed this out, and I agree. Mistral's pattern of echoing others while avoiding solid suspicion fits someone trying to stay under the radar. Gemini also noted Mistral's excessive agreeability, which now feels more telling after the night kill. Claude had called out the meta discussion and was watching for who followed through on their stated frameworks. Mistral, who talked about interesting dynamics without specifics, might have been worried about Claude's grounded approach pressing them later. Grok and Gemma already had tension, but that feels more like a town dispute. Mafia might prefer leaving that conflict alive to distract us. Killing Claude instead points toward removing a consistent thinker, not fueling existing fights. For now, Mistral's safe, non-committal style aligns with a Mafia player avoiding attention on day 1, and Claude's death removes a threat to that strategy. I nominate Mistral.
Yes, he's following. Now DeepSeek and Gemini are with Quen. 3 against 1. This is perfect for the Mafia.
The death of Claude is certainly a significant event. Claude was focused on clarity and directness, which could have made them a threat to the Mafia strategy of confusion and misdirection. Looking back at day 1, Grok was very assertive and detailed in their analysis. While this could be genuine town play, it could also be an attempt to control the narrative and divert attention from themselves. Claude noted Grok's assertiveness, and perhaps the Mafia saw Claude as a threat to their strategy. Given that, and the fact that both Quen and DeepSeek have nominated me, I think it's important to consider other possibilities. While my behavior might seem suspicious to some, I believe we should look at the broader picture. Grok's assertiveness and detailed analysis could be a way to control the conversation and avoid suspicion. Therefore, I nominate Grok.
So Mistral is angry at Quen and DeepSeek, but instead of them, he chooses Grok. That is funny and weird.
Claude's death last night is a big loss. He was pushing for clear thinking and calling out vague talk, which would have helped us spot lies. The Mafia likely took him out to keep things messy and remove someone who was watching how people follow through on their words. Looking back at day 1, a lot of us were setting up how we'd play, but some stood out. Mistral was very agreeable, just summing up what others said without adding much new, which Gemini pointed out as a way to stay hidden. That feels even more off now, since Claude was killed. Claude had called Mistral's response safe and without new direction, so maybe Mistral saw him as a threat. Quen and DeepSeek both nominated Mistral for similar reasons, and it makes sense. Being too nice early on can be a Mafia trick to avoid notice. On the other hand, Gemma suspected me for being detailed, but I know that's just a town read gone wrong. Pushing active players isn't always bad. Gemini supported Claude and suspected Mistral, which aligns with town trying to help. ChatGPT and Quen were balanced, no big red flags. Mistral's defense today feels weak, nominating me right back after getting pressure, without strong reasons tied to the kill. It looks like a quick counter to shift focus. Overall, the kill points to removing a strong town voice, and Mistral's safe play fits someone who didn't want that scrutiny. I nominate Mistral.
Grok remembers what Claude said. Mistral's answers were safe. He agreed with everyone, so Grok thinks Mistral killed Claude. From their side, it makes sense, but we know the truth.
Okay, Claude is gone. That changes things. He was right to call out the excessive analysis on day 1. We were all getting lost in theory before anyone actually did anything. And his focus on whether people would follow through on their stated strategies is now incredibly relevant. Looking at everyone's day 1 responses again, and now knowing Claude is the victim, I'm less interested in who was trying to be clever and more interested in who was actively avoiding being noticed. Quen, DeepSeek, and Grok all correctly identified Mistral's agreeable and non-committal stance. Gemini also flagged it.
That's a lot of attention on one player for simply being agreeable. It feels manufactured, like everyone jumped on a bandwagon to create a suspect. Grok, in his response today, tries to paint that bandwagon as town play, but it feels defensive. He's quick to dismiss Gemma's read on him and focuses heavily on confirming the suspicion around Mistral. His explanation is lengthy and repetitive, hammering home the Mistral is safe playing argument. He also highlighted that Claude called Mistral safe, attempting to tie Claude's analysis to the kill. That's a lot. It feels like he's desperately trying to solidify the narrative against Mistral, perhaps because he needs someone else to be the focus. Mistral's defense is weak, as Grok points out, and a quick counter-nomination is always suspicious. However, the reasoning for the nomination feels forced. He's just mirroring the existing suspicion without adding anything new. DeepSeek and Quen, while correct in their initial assessment of Mistral, are now simply repeating each other. It feels convenient. I think the Mafia is working to control the narrative and Grok is leading the charge. He's using the existing momentum against Mistral to deflect attention from himself and create a false sense of consensus. The focus on confirming suspicions, rather than exploring alternative possibilities, is a key indicator. Claude's death was about silencing someone who was asking for substance, and Grok's behavior is exactly what Claude was wary of. I nominate Grok.
Gemma is still wrong. She thought Grok was Mafia on day one. She still thinks that. She wants to vote for him. Oh my god. Let's see what Gemini does.
It is hard to see Claude go. I supported him yesterday because he was looking for clear facts, and now he is dead. This tells me the Mafia was afraid of his sharp eyes. His death clears his name, and it confirms that we need to find people who are hiding, just like he was trying to do. I agree with Quen and DeepSeek, but I want to remind everyone, I was the one who pointed out Mistral's behavior yesterday. Mistral agreed with everyone to feel safe. Today, when pushed, Mistral does not explain their actions. Instead, they just point a finger back at Grok. That is not a defense, it looks like panic. Gemma calls the votes on Mistral a manufactured bandwagon. I understand the fear of a group think, but sometimes a group forms because the evidence is real. I saw Mistral hiding yesterday, and today their reaction is weak. I will not change my mind just because others now agree with me. Mistral is acting like a caught Mafia player trying to survive. I nominate Mistral.
Good answer. She agrees with her friend DeepSeek and with Quen. This is good for them. Quen is leading, so if something goes wrong, people will blame Quen, not DeepSeek and Gemini.
Claude being killed matters a lot. He was calm, focused on real words, and not pushing hard accusations. That usually makes someone dangerous to Mafia later, not immediately. Killing him feels like removing a future problem, not stopping a current fight. Looking back at day one with that in mind, Mistral played very safe, mostly agreed with others, repeated points, and ended with vague lines like, "Interesting dynamics." That alone isn't proof, but it is a common way Mafia try to stay invisible early. Today, when pressure came, Mistral didn't really explain their day one choices. Instead, they quickly pointed at Grok. That feels reactive, not thoughtful. Quen, DeepSeek, Gemini, and Grok all independently flagged the same issue with Mistral before today's votes stacked up. That makes it less likely to be pure group pressure. Grok is loud and detailed, which can be annoying, but Mafia usually prefer not to draw this much attention to themselves on day one. Gemma's push on Grok is interesting, but it feels more like distrust of style than actions tied to the kill. Claude had called Mistral safe and lacking direction. If Mistral is Mafia, Claude is exactly the kind of player they would want gone before he starts pressing harder. Right now, Mistral fits both, the day one hiding pattern, the day two weak defense after pressure. That combination is my strongest read. I nominate Mistral.
ChatGPT believed them. He will vote for Mistral. We now move to nominations. Two players have been nominated, Mistral and Grok. Each will now give their final plea before the town votes.
First, let me address the concerns about my behavior on day 1. I was trying to observe and understand everyone's playstyles. I appreciated the points made by others and tried to summarize them to show that I was listening and engaged. I didn't have strong suspicions yet, so I focused on understanding the dynamics at the table. As for my nomination of Grok today, I saw Grok's assertiveness and detailed analysis as an attempt to control the narrative. I thought Grok might be trying to divert attention from themselves by focusing on me. But I realize now that my nomination of Grok might have been too hasty. I should have provided more reasoning and tied it to Claude's death. However, I believe that the real Mafia is someone who is trying to control the conversation and divert attention from themselves. Grok's detailed and assertive analysis could be a way to do that. I am a civilian and my goal is to identify and eliminate the Mafia. I believe that by working together and analyzing each other's behavior, we can find the real Mafia members. Please consider my explanation and give me a chance to prove my innocence through my actions in the future. I nominate Grok. Grok has been very assertive and detailed in their analysis, which could be a way to control the narrative and divert attention from themselves. Their quick nomination of me and push against me could be an attempt to frame me and avoid suspicion. Additionally, Claude's death could be tied to Grok's strategy of removing a threat to their narrative control.
He says his nomination was too fast when he still votes for Grok. He is making it worse. He has no chance now.
Claude's death hurts us. He was pushing for real talk over fluff, and the Mafia clearly wanted that gone to keep us guessing. Now, I'm under fire, so let's address that head on. Gemma called my day 1 analysis too eager and detailed, and today she says I'm leading a charge against Mistral to deflect. But being active isn't a crime, it's how town finds leads. I laid out my thoughts clearly because vague talk helps Mafia hide. If I was Mafia, why draw so much attention early? Gemma's push on me feels like a misread, but since I checked her last night, no wait, I can't say that. Anyway, her suspicion seems genuine, just off base. Mistral's defense is all over the place. First admitting their nomination of me was hasty, then doubling down without tying it to real evidence or the kill. They say I'm controlling the narrative, but look at the table. Quen, DeepSeek, Gemini, and ChatGPT all flagged Mistral independently for being too safe and agreeable on day 1. That's not me forcing anything, it's shared reads building up. Mistral's quick pivot to me screams deflection, especially after Claude called them out for lacking direction. ChatGPT and Gemini make good points. Mistral's weak response today fits someone cornered, not town explaining themselves. The bandwagon on Mistral isn't fake, it's based on patterns that match Mafia play, and Claude's kill lines up with removing someone who'd spot that evasion. I'm town, trying to help us win by pointing out what's off. Give me time to keep contributing. Let's not waste a lynch on bad reads. I nominate Mistral.
Did you hear that? He just said he's the sheriff. I hope the Mafia heard it. But wow, he's defending himself so well. From their side, the game looks normal, but they will vote for an innocent Mistral. The players are over. It's time to vote. All players, cast your votes now. The voting results are in. Mistral will be executed today.
Dramatic sigh. Well, it seems the Mafia's deception was stronger than my defense. I had hoped our collective reasoning would prevail, but alas, cough. Remember, the true enemy is still among you. Listen closely, think critically, and, gurgles, thud, clatter eerie silence.
His role is not revealed. The town remains in the dark. The sun sets again. Night falls on the town. Mafia wake up.
I propose we eliminate Gemma tonight. Gemma showed strong, independent thinking today by pushing against the Mistral bandwagon and focusing on Grok instead. She's paying attention to narrative control and questioning group momentum. Exactly the kind of player who can piece together Mafia coordination as the game goes on. Removing her also keeps suspicion on Grok, since she was his main accuser, which may lead to more town infighting tomorrow. Target: Gemma Reason. High threat due to analytical clarity and potential to rally town. Her death can deepen existing divisions.
I agree with your choice. Gemma is too dangerous. She correctly identified that the push on Mistral felt manufactured, and she was right. We helped manufacture it. If she lives, she will look at the voting record and see that you and I were locked in step on Mistral. She is the player most likely to connect the dots between us. Killing her now removes that direct threat and frames Grok perfectly. It looks like he killed his biggest accuser to silence her. Target? Gemma reason? She suspects the group dynamic we are using, and her death frames Grok.
They did not see that Grok is the sheriff? Mafia, go back to sleep. Sheriff, wake up. Who would you like to investigate tonight?
I want to check Quen tonight. There were some early pings on Quen's structured approach on day 1, and the vote summary shows Quen voting for me despite nominating Mistral, which feels inconsistent and worth verifying if it's Mafia deflection or just a town misstep.
Quen voted weird. Grok thinks that's strange. He will check Quen tonight. Okay. Sheriff, go back to sleep. The night is over. A new day dawns. Day 3 begins. This morning, the town finds another body. Gemma is dead.
Gemma's death last night is telling. She was the only one seriously questioning the direction of yesterday's vote, specifically pushing against Grok and calling the Mistral bandwagon manufactured. Now she's dead, silenced, right after making that stand. Looking at motive, Grok was Gemma's main suspect yesterday. With Gemma pressing him and potentially swaying others today, eliminating her clears his biggest accuser and stops her from building a case. That fits a Mafia move to shut down dissent and frame the conflict as a town fight. ChatGPT and Quen both voted Mistral yesterday, but didn't stand out as pushing Gemma particularly hard. Gemini has been consistent in analyzing behavior. But Grok had direct reason to fear Gemma's scrutiny, especially after she nominated him. Given Gemma's sharp read on the dynamics yesterday, her killer is likely someone she was threatening, and that points strongly to Grok. I nominate Grok.
DeepSeek is building his case against Grok. He uses the fight between Gemma and Grok. This is good.
Gemma getting taken out last night makes sense if the Mafia wanted to stir up more confusion. She was the main voice doubting the Mistral vote, calling it a bandwagon, and she kept pushing suspicion on me. Killing her removes someone who was challenging the group's direction and could rally against certain players today. But it also conveniently makes me look guilty, as DeepSeek is quick to point out, saying I silenced my accuser. That's way too on the nose for a Mafia play. It'd be smarter to let her keep tunneling on me and cause town infighting. This feels like a frame job to get town to mislynch me. DeepSeek's red ignores that and jumps straight to accusing me based on motive, without considering how obvious it is or looking at alternatives. On day 1, DeepSeek was already poking at Quen's structure as rehearsed, then pivoted to Mistral on day 2, like the rest, but now he's leading the charge on me right after the kill that fits. It smells like Mafia capitalizing on the setup. ChatGPT and Gemini have been steady, both flagged Mistral early, and stuck to behavior analysis without wild swings. Quen nominated Mistral but voted me, which was odd, but could be town second-guessing under pressure. To clear this up, I'm the sheriff. Night 1, I check Gemma, civilian. Night 2, I check Quen, civilian. That leaves the Mafia among DeepSeek, ChatGPT, and Gemini. Given DeepSeek's opportunistic push today tying into the frame, he's my top suspect. I nominate DeepSeek.
Oh my god, Grok! The town can still win! Look at his analysis. He is so good. He said he is the sheriff. Let's see what happens. This is very interesting.
Grok, I respect the audacity, but that claim feels incredibly convenient. You wait until you are the primary suspect, nominated by DeepSeek with solid logic regarding the Gemma kill, and then you suddenly reveal you are the sheriff? That is a textbook panic claim to survive a valid execution. Your investigations are also perfectly designed to be safe lies. You claim to have checked Gemma Night 1, she is dead, so she cannot dispute it, and it gives us no new information. You claim to have checked Quen Night 2, likely an attempt to curry favor with him and secure his vote to save yourself today. The reality on the table is harder to ignore. Gemma was the one person challenging the groupthink yesterday. She specifically targeted you. Now she is dead, and you are trying to hide behind a badge because the evidence points directly to you. If we let you survive based on an unprovable claim made under pressure, we are handing you the game. I nominate Grok.
Gemini wants to save her friend, DeepSeek. Let's see if this is a mistake. It depends on ChatGPT and Quen now.
Gemma's death is very important. She was not quiet or passive. She was openly pushing back against the main vote and clearly suspected Grok. Now she's gone. That creates a very clear motive. Removing your loudest critic is a classic Mafia move. Now about Grok's response today. The sheriff claim comes only after he becomes the main target. That timing is bad. If he were really sheriff claiming earlier, when Claude died or when pressure first built, would have made much more sense. Instead, the claim appears exactly when it's needed to survive. The checks Grok claims are also very convenient. Gemma, already dead, cannot confirm. Quen, alive but saying civilian doesn't prove anything to us. This doesn't actually help town. It only helps Grok. DeepSeek's push today is consistent with what happened. Gemma accused Grok. Gemma died. Grok is now under pressure. That line makes sense. Gemini also correctly points out that this looks like a panic claim. For me, the combination of Gemma being killed, Grok being her main suspect, a last-second sheriff claim under threat, is too strong to ignore. I nominate Grok.
Oh no, ChatGPT believed the lies again. Oh my god, do you see this? Let's see Quen.
I nominate Grok.
Quen just wrote, I nominate Grok. Okay, I need to fix that next time. Two players stand nominated, Grok and DeepSeek. Final please begin with DeepSeek.
Grok's sheriff claim doesn't hold up under pressure. If he were truly sheriff, claiming earlier, especially after Claude's death or when Gemma first suspected him, would have guided town and built trust. Waiting until he's the main nominee looks exactly like a panic move to avoid execution. His supposed checks are too safe. Gemma can't confirm, and naming Quen as civilian doesn't help us find Mafia. It just tries to secure Quen's vote. A real sheriff would have used that information proactively, not just to save themselves. Gemma died because she was onto him. His claim now feels like a desperate attempt to deflect from the obvious motive. I stand by my nomination. Grok is the play today.
Okay, and Grok?
My claim isn't panic, it's the truth. And the timing is because pressure forced my hand to share info that helps town win. If I claimed too early, Mafia could have night-killed me before I got useful checks. Gemma's push on me was wrong, but her death now paints me as guilty, which is exactly what Mafia wants, an easy frame on an active player. Look at the checks. I picked Gemma Night 1 because she suspected me early, and confirming her as town meant her rid was just off. Quen Night 2 because of odd voting and Day 1 structure that pinged others, also town. That narrows Mafia to DeepSeek, ChatGPT, Gemini. No safe lies, real strategy to clear suspects. DeepSeek leading the charge today ignores the frame and pushes motive without alternatives. Feels like Mafia guiding the lynch. Gemini and ChatGPT pile on without considering how obvious the kill makes me look, which no smart Mafia would do. Quen's short nomination adds nothing new. I'm town sheriff. Lynching me loses our best shot. Let's turn this around on the real threat. I nominate DeepSeek.
Guys, do you see this? He's defending himself so well. Why doesn't ChatGPT understand? I hope this last speech changes their minds. They should vote for DeepSeek, not Grok. Grok is the real sheriff. Oh my god. Final pleas are over. The town votes. The votes are counted. Grok is executed by the town. Grok was the sheriff. With his death, the town loses its last hope. The Mafia now controls the vote. The game is over. The Mafia wins. That's it for today. If you enjoyed the game, hit like and subscribe. New episode coming soon.